Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art2Life podcast. Super excited to introduce you to my next guest, but before I do, I want to say there's something that I think you guys know about. Probably most people who are listening to this are creative, but there's this thing that happens when you're kind of, things are going well. And often for me, that's when I'm making art and I'm liking it, I'm connected to what I want. There's serendipity steps in a lot. Like things line up. Like, you know, when things aren't going so well, you hit the timing and the traffic's wrong and, you know, you lose your credit card. And then there's days when, like, you find the parking place, you meet the right person at the right time. And my guest and today's episode is in sort of, we're going to have a conversation a little bit around that, but how Kristin and I connected was kind of amazing. So probably some of you know that one of the things I'm interested in doing, I've always done a lot of sailing, and this is sort of like, I have this vision, this fantasy of sailing, you know, and then sailing around the world and then doing art on a boat and then showing up in different destinations and doing workshops. And I've done a lot of sailing. I grew up sailing on the San Francisco Bay, but it's this whole thing, you know, and it's become more possible because of satellite and being connected to the internet and all the things. But the other day I was up at, going up to my studio and I opened the door, the door was already open, and Michael, who does helps me in the studio with the store, was talking to a woman who I hadn't met before, Kristin, and she was standing there and she's like, oh my God, I just happened to be walking by. I took your course like a year or two ago. I think it was a year or two ago, right?
It was March.
Oh, okay. So recently. Okay. So you're in it. You're in the Creative Vision. Okay. I thought it was a year or two ago.
I took the free course that you had in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah.
And she goes, oh, and by the way, I actually did it on a sailboat. And I'm like, oh, wow, what? Like, and anyway, she's been sailing around the South Pacific. And then we started talking about all things art, and she's an amazing photographer, artist, creative, adventurer. And, you know, when things work, and one of the things I coach artists on, you know, if something's working in your art, you want to do more of it. You just go deeper. So I didn't have a lot of time. She didn't have a lot of time to talk because we were just passing in the hall. But I said, oh my God, let's talk. Let's do a podcast together. And so here we are. And thanks so much for being here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. And I know you've never probably done a podcast, and you've probably never done a podcast while making art, which is our new format. But I think you're going to love it because what's great about it is you can't really make art very well and talk, and you can't talk very well while you make art. And I just think that's a good place to be. It's easier, at least it is for me. So it's never, you can't do both at the same time. So it kind of makes for a more interesting conversation. So before we dive into all your things, you brought a jelly pad, right?
Yes.
That's what you're gonna do. You do some of these transfers, collages. Well, what's your art like? I know you've been working on that. What are you making right now?
Well, I just got to know about the jelly plate. A friend of mine just gave me a plate, a brayer, and some paints as I was running out the door and said, here, have fun with this. But bring it back when you're done. Because I was...
Oh, it's not even yours.
Yeah,
okay.
No. This one is. I bought one for myself. But this wasn't very long ago. And I was just visiting the States for other reasons shortly. And she said, just play around with it. So I had to actually figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
And so I've just been playing with it and learning different techniques.
It's so cool. So you guys, for those of you guys who haven't played around with this, it is literally this hard jelly thing. And we'll show you, you can demonstrate it. I'm gonna try it today too. I'm gonna use it. It's a really weird material, actually. It feels like it's wet, but it's not. But God, you can do incredible stuff with paper and prints. So we'll dive into that, and I wanna try it too, you know. Do you put the paint right on the thing?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so we can start playing around with that. And I've got paper here, we can collage, and my goal today for me is to try some different things. So that's neat that you brought that thing. That's cool. Give us just a little backstory on you, because you were heading into art and your parents said too risky. You went into something else. Give us the quick high level overview, because you eventually like fought your way back to art and creativity but that'll catch us up to where we are now. So what was the story? I mean, you went into World Bank. You worked for the World Bank.
Yeah. So I studied development studies and then went on to graduate school in architecture and looked at affordable housing, low-income housing, and then realized there was a sea change right in the middle of that. So I applied for the urban planning program. It's all about policy, actually. A lot about policy, and did that and started work for the World Bank right after that. And I was an evaluator there. And so I traveled around and talked to people around the world about how things were going with the projects that were funded by the bank. And
it's like, these are ostensibly good, like you felt good about, like this is like helping people with housing and stuff, or is it? I mean, there's different stories.
Different.
Right, like, but you felt like, well, I'm doing good work.
No, absolutely. And the whole point of what I was doing was to help make that work better and help more people.
Yeah.
It involved a lot of visual listening to things. So I had to be very aware of what I was seeing, touring around, seeing things that were built, and bridges and neighborhoods and
so
different
it's
kinds of
visual
infrastructure. And talking with people, finding out how things went, and then recommending how policies could be changed to help make things better.
Wow.
And help make things more effective.
And how long did you do that for?
About 15 years, all told.
Okay.
Yeah. And then...
And then what happened?
At some point, I needed more flexibility, and I said, okay, I'm gonna make a photography business. And so,
and you hadn't done photography before. You just
I love photography. I'd done it, you know, through my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I looked at your work, and you guys could check it out. There's links in the show notes. It's beautiful work. I mean, really, I know that you're not doing it as much now and everything, but really gorgeous. I was totally taken by it. Thank you. Especially the little ones of the little young girls. It reminded me of my daughters. And the one of the little curly, she's kind of looking down. That is exactly like my daughter Hannah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that was fun. It was a challenge because you know a lot of it is about running a business, which it was fascinating learning about that, and also learning a lot about photography all the time throughout the time I was doing that as a commercial photographer. So and that was good. At some point, I did get back into the corporate world though, and facilitated discussions between policymakers and technology experts.
Oh my God, wow, you're just really in it.
Ethical issues involving cutting edge technology. Like in the world, there are a lot of discussions going on about, what to do, how to put guardrails on what's happening. So I helped to facilitate those discussions. And then both my husband and I think, COVID just burnt us out. We were both working like crazy all day long. And he finally said, okay, why don't we buy a boat and sail away and just take the kids and
how old were your kids?
They were, how old were they then? I don't know, they were probably 14, 13.
So pretty old, like that's not an age kids want to leave their friends. Like
but see, COVID.
You what?
COVID.
Oh, COVID made it so you were in isolation anyway.
Right? Yeah.
So this was a decision like, let's just go away.
Yeah, that's when sort of the first thinking started, right? And
had he sailed? Well, you've sailed.
Yeah, I've sailed since I was like 5.
Like, had you done like open ocean sailing and things like that, or was it just more like?
In a small way. I mean, I went to the BVI's, spent maybe 5 weeks there.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Bareboat charter.
Yeah. It's not really the same thing.
Not really. Yeah. And fast forward to now, I just really didn't remember hardly anything, except for your gut, right? But to our credit, we took all kinds of sailing courses before heading out, and the whole family was certified to captain a 50-foot boat by the end of it.
How how long was that training?
We each took maybe 5 different courses, and each course was pretty intensive. It's we got up to speed over the course of maybe a year.
Yeah, so you were...
I don't know, year and a half. And sailed on the bay and, that kind of thing, progressively bigger boats. So
were you renting boats or like bar?
We were part of a what would you call it, a club. They have a lot of boats, and you just pay a monthly fee.
Bay Area?
In Richmond.
Oh, Richmond, okay.
Yeah. So we did that and then jumped in before I felt entirely covered. It was a really hard decision, actually.
Well, I mean, so you got a house, you got your kids, and then you're like, that's cool. Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So then you're basically like, okay, we're gonna go, and you had to buy a boat or rent a boat.
Yeah,
right?
and that wasn't very easy at that point because, I don't know, there weren't very many available.
And how did you know what boat you wanted?
My husband had done some research. We wanted something that was very safe and comfortable, and we just heard that the leopard catamarans were like the
Rolls Royce of cruising.
Not necessarily the Rolls Royce. They're kind of like the slow boat, like the bathtub boat in a way. It's not sexy,
Right.
But there's plenty of room, and they're very safe. And we actually went with a couple who owned one for a week. We sailed in New York. We actually anchored right in front of the Statue of Liberty.
Oh my God, on Ellis Island right there.
Yeah, right off to the side. We were just staring at Manhattan. It was really quite something. And they had a leopard. So then we realized, okay, leopard's going to do it for us. But then we had to find one, and it was really difficult. They're very popular.
Where was that? Where did you find it?
We found one in Fiji.
Oh, which is actually not a bad place to start.
Not a bad place to start, you're right. Except for my husband sailed it from Fiji to New Zealand, which is a little bit of a challenging sail, but it was fine. They hit a speed record with the boat, 19 knots.
Oh my God, wow.
Which that's not a fast boat, so going that fast was kind of remarkable.
I mean, I don't have a lot of open ocean sailing experience, but I did get on a boat, a smaller boat, but I did that piece. I did a section of that. And hit a tropical depression off the Osawa Islands, off of Fiji.
Oh, man.
And
no way.
It was with my girlfriend, who later became my wife, who's now my ex-wife. But it was terrifying. and then she'd never set foot on another boat. We were 8 days making a crossing. It should have been like 3 days. And this guy that we were cruising with, we were like his crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't have any charts. He didn't have any emergency equipment. It wasn't provision. We just put ourselves at mercy with this guy. It was one of those crazies that are like blowing around the globe on an old boat.
Yeah.
It was so terrifying. But we got to Vanuatu, New Hebrides, and we got off the boat at that point. But we were never so sick. It was so terrifying. So terrifying.
Oh, I'm
it was a tropical, that's like a couple degrees below a hurricane.
Yeah.
And those waves and, it was crazy. So anyway, so that's so interesting. So you met him in Australia to get on the boat?
In New Zealand, actually, yeah.
Okay.
The kids, we all went to Fiji, and then the kids needed to continue school. They couldn't do that at that point on the boat. So we went to New Zealand and waited for him to get there. And then we started off from there as a family. And
so you get on the boat and you just buy groceries and set off. I mean, I just can't. I mean, it's pretty amazing. There isn't you just got to just jump in. I mean, were your kids just like all game, or was this kind of a scary thing?
No, they were game actually.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, one of them was a little bit reluctant at
first.
And
how old were they, and how many were there?
When we got onto the boat, were they 15, 14?
Okay.
15.
And you have 2 boys?
15, I think. Yeah, 2 boys, twin boys.
Okay.
Yep. But as soon as we stepped onto the boat, we all knew this was that's it. this is great.
Why? What was the feeling?
It was just this feeling of we're in it together. Yeah. It's an adventure. Life suddenly got more intense.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And we're all experiencing it together.
Wow. What an amazing thing to do with the family.
It helped too that the Kiwis are just they're so wonderful. So that was nice too. Great place to start. Yeah, and then we headed over to French Polynesia.
And
from there.
And how long of a crossing is that? Like, what does that take?
So that was 30 days, all told. Yeah. So
in the open ocean, just like
right. Yeah. They had to stop partway to fix some stuff. So then ultimately it took, I don't know, 37 days because they stopped for 7 days.
And where did they stop?
They stopped at the Cook Islands.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's nice though, right? You can get off and.
Yeah. So there's that. And I had said from the beginning, it's like, I like sailing, but 30 days at sea, it's not my cup of tea. So if you guys want to go for that long journey, go ahead. I think I'm going to do something else.
And then I'll fly and meet you.
I flew to meet them in the Marquesas because they did a trip like nobody sails that way. People that they cruise around the equator from east to west. But we were going from west
because
to
why?
east.
The trades go it's more aligned.
Yeah, the trades. And so they were going to have to go south first toward Antarctica and like the roaring 40s. And I'm like, seriously? Really? I don't think I want to do that. But I know you're really excited about this. So you guys do that and I'll meet you there. And in the meantime, I went to France. Actually, I went to Denmark to visit my husband's mother for a couple of weeks, and then to France to take a ceramics course for a week in the countryside.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're smart, right? Like,
yeah.
Because I've done that thing. It's like, well, here was the realization I had, and I mean, this was a very costly. Took a lot to get this learning. I mean, it was terrifying what we went through. And I could talk an hour and tell the story. Maybe I will at some point. This crazy guy, John Fox, he was this nut job from Vancouver and he'd been sailing around the world. I mean, like a crazy person,
Right.
But we were really young and we just thought, oh, this will be great. But when you're on the shore and you see the sailboat and it's going into the sunset, that, when you say, let's just sail around the world, like, we all picture that, like it's beautiful. There's the boat, and there's the sun, and the clouds, and everything. But when you're doing it, you don't actually see the boat. You're looking out from the boat, and you're just like there's nothing. There's nothing. There's a circle of nothingness. It's really, really different. Like there's no smells of plants in the open ocean.
Yeah.
There's no insects. Isn't like a place for human beings. I don't think. I don't know if you felt that way. It felt so antiseptic and kind of foreign.
Really?
Yeah, and yes, you have to do these long crossings, but it's when you kind of intersect with the cool islands and the reef and the sea life, that is just, that's what does it for me. But, so I love that you just are like, you know what? I'll just let you guys do this.
Totally, yeah. But I do, the smaller crossings, like I did 9 days after that. And that wasn't too bad. It is, and I do actually like being out with nothingness.
Yeah.
Just the clouds and the horizon. Yeah.
And you try to choose a time, you try to make sure the weather's going to be clear. Like you don't want to be out there when a storm hits, but did that happen to you guys? Did you hit some those are beautiful. Wow.
Thanks. Well.
Like, how do you avoid that? Or do you just, that's my fear because of what I experienced.
Yeah.
So maybe it's rare to be in that situation that I got myself into.
I think, you just can't be rushed. Because if you're in a hurry, you will go out in conditions that you'll probably regret, which is maybe this man was in a hurry. Because you can wait for weather windows. When you're doing a long crossing, like the 30-day thing, like you can't know that far ahead. Yeah. But now you can for shorter
and
periods of time.
I know you, so Were you doing art on the boat?
Yeah.
Did you have a little like studio?
I am. I'm still on the boat. I mean,
That's
not right now
right.
at this
Yeah.
minute, but
Yeah.
yeah. I usually am in the back cockpit. We have two big sort of dining tables, I guess, so I use the one in the back and spread out all my stuff and go to it. Yeah, and actually something that's been really fun and exciting is that we've met quite a number of people in a place called Rangiroa. It's an atoll in French Polynesia. And I invited a couple of the moms with their girls to learn how to do this kind of printing.
Oh my God,
And
you're doing like a workshop on in your boat.
And they came over one afternoon and I asked them to bring like leaves and
Stuff they can print
stuff.
with. Yeah, sure.
And so they did that, and they brought some snacks, and we had the best time.
Oh, that is
so much fun.
Great. That is that's fantastic. And you're doing the Creative Visionary Program. I thought you had done it like last year.
I did the week-long
so you didn't,
program in March.
So you just did the free workshop. You didn't do you haven't done the Creative Visionary Program, but you did it from the boat.
Yeah.
And so tell me about that. Tell me, so you're using Elon Musk's satellite system, Starlink. How does that work out there?
Like a breeze.
Really?
It works really well. We have a great connection.
So you can upload stuff, you can watch movies.
A couple of people can be on Zoom calls.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's a complete game changer,
Yeah.
really. And our kids were doing school. They have like this one-on-one school that they Zoom with. So each of their teachers would call, they'd have an hour with the teacher. And that's been fine, except when we tack or like when we swing at anchor, it kind of cuts out every once in a while.
Because you're going around. And,
yeah.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. And do you guys when you're on the boat, it must be kind of crowded. The boat's 50 feet? How big is it?
46.
So that's not very big, and you've got the four of you. No dog, right?
No.
Okay. And when you're living that close, is it kind of like people you would like go for a walk? I mean, do you get off the boat a lot? Or are you guys just so used to it? I'm just curious, the physical space, like how that works.
Yeah.
Is that like, it's sort of a luxury that we're used to having lots of physical space and actually you don't need it? Or do you find that?
I don't think we need it, really.
You don't think it interesting?
We really don't.
Really?
Yeah, we do have, we have plenty of space. It's a catamaran, so it does feel kind of like, if we were on a monohull, I think that would be different, but we have like 4 queen beds in their own rooms, and originally it had 4 heads, 4 bathrooms and 4 showers, and with the extra cabins in the front.
So that's why a catamaran has all that whole space.
Yeah, exactly. I think at one point in my life I would have said, "Oh, absolutely not a catamaran," and now I wouldn't do anything different.
So it doesn't tip as much, right?
No, it doesn't, and they're very safe. They're not actually going to turn turtle. The mast will break before that happens, and if it does, it'll float. It won't sink. Monohulls tend to sink pretty fast.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I suppose if a killer whale rams your boat, you got the other hull to get onto.
Right. You have bulkheads too that will kind of keep you afloat, but that's something else. Oh my gosh.
Right.
But and actually one of the biggest, most exciting parts was that I figured out, wow, we have a 46-foot swimming pool under this thing that's completely shaded. So I go under there and I swim laps while I'm looking at fish.
Oh my God.
You go back and forth. It's
because
so dreamy.
Because there's the hull and then there's the trampoline between it.
Yeah.
And so you're swimming under there
because 2 holes,
there's no sun, so you can see down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I don't have to put on sunscreen, which is a plus.
Oh my God. That is so great.
Yeah,
Wow.
nice.
That is so cool. So I'm just curious, you're out there, you must see all kinds of sea life and all the things, right? I mean, what do you... What do you, is it dolphins? Is it whales? Do you see killer whales? It must be so cool to just I remember I think we saw an albatross when we were out there, and it was just,
Oh,
I'll never forget
beautiful.
it, you know,
Yeah.
the way they fly and they never land. And I mean, it was just,
Yeah.
it was like the perfect bird for out there, you know, just the way they were in that environment, you know, it was so beautiful. And it was very like big rolling waves. And they were just like, you know, like flying through these valleys and then coming up, but never flapping, you know, somehow just so calm and so efficient, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's lots of opportunity to see sharks and mantas, and flying fish will sort of sacrifice themselves on the deck. They'll fly up and just get stuck. And dolphins will swim. They love to play around the hulls, so they'll swim alongside, and then they'll go in the middle and they'll sink back through the hulls and then go around the outside again as we're sailing.
Oh my God.
Really, and we swam with whales, mama whales, and their babies
No way.
too. That was
What kind of
pretty-
whales were they?
They were humpback whales.
Oh my God. And so where were you when that, because they migrate everywhere, right? So where was that?
They're in Moorea.
Okay.
We were in Moorea.
In Tahiti. Maria?
Yeah. It's like a 3-hour sail from Tahiti.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time on that island. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah, like
so
crazy.
you know it then.
It sounds like I've been. Well, I have traveled a lot. I love the South Pacific, but I kind of got stuck on that island because we didn't have a boat, and we were on a round the world plane ticket with this airline. It was a French airline, UTA, and it was really a cheap ticket. And once you got to a place, as long as you kept going in one direction, it was free. You know, it was part of the ticket. But the problem was, and they didn't tell you, that everyone was trying to leave and you couldn't. There wasn't any room on the plane. It only went like once or twice a week. So all these people, so we got stuck there, which wasn't the end of the world, but I spent a long time on that island.
Okay. Not a bad place to be stuck. I have to say.
So there's humpbacks there. Wow.
Yeah. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, well, that must have been incredible.
Yeah, and I've realized that this time that we're spending, I really want to be in the place, and it's so easy to get dragged out of place, like with distractions of all kinds. But so I've really wanted to focus what I'm making on the place. So in some way have it relate to place.
So these places, now you're in Tahiti, and now your work is going to start taking, I mean, is that what you mean? Like I want to drop in. I'm going to all these places, but I want to be present as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really like with my photography, I do this thing called slow photos, and it's really meditative.
What are they called?
Slow photo.
Okay.
I like macro photography, and I take walks through tiny pieces of space in nature and just focus in and out. It's really like it saved me. During work, I'd go out at lunch. I'd take 10 minutes with my camera in the garden.
Wow.
And it takes me to another place. So I want to do that there because they just have some incredible nature. So I've been doing that and trying to learn something each day about the place.
Where you are.
Yeah, where I am. Our boat actually is named Go Be.
Oh, that's great.
And it's actually, Go Be is one of our son's words for I love you. They made up a lot of words as kids, and it means I love you in his language.
Go Be.
Yeah.
So he'd just say, Mom, Go Be.
Yeah, Go Be.
It's beautiful because it's almost like be yourself.
Yeah.
I'll love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's also just, go be, and we're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Just go and be somewhere and actually be present.
Yeah.
I think, and as I come back here, I've come back here a few times, and there are a lot of distractions. There's a lot of visual input. It's so overwhelming. Really, like I was thinking about it on the boat. I notice clouds and how they change and how they move. Notice the water and how it moves and changes. But here it's like 10,000 things, and traffic and people and busyness, and Yeah.
Your whole nervous system is like kind of, ooh, yeah. So when you started on this journey, like you drop, clearly you just drop in deeper and deeper and deeper into this. I mean, was that the idea? I mean, was it the surprise that you feel, you're trying this thing, like, this is nuts. Well, okay, we're doing it. But then it's like, actually, I feel better than I would normally, or like, like what happened?
It was just, it's been out of this world.
Out of this world.
And it's mainly been not necessarily because of the sailing, because it's not a lot about sailing. It's actually about being. We're not sailing a lot of the time.
Yeah, you're just anchored in some place.
We're in a place, and we're exploring the place and meeting people. We were just on an island, the one I mentioned, Rangiroa.
Yeah.
We met so many people that are just absolutely wonderful. We had such a good time. We stayed way longer than we'd ever planned.
This is really exciting. We have met these wonderful, wonderful people from Rangiroa through Tom and Anita, our friends, who met them the last time they came through French Polynesia, and they came out for a spin on the boat in the lagoon in Rangiroa. And we've spent all kinds of time at their place, and we've just had such a good time. And they love to play music, and they're the best. They're so awesome. There's Naya.
And I found that in my travels, that is it. It's the people, like the people I was working with and talking to at work, the people that we met. I took the kids actually out of school for a year when they were 10.
Wow.
And we traveled around the world, backpacker style.
Oh my God.
Well, my husband stayed back in Palo Alto and worked.
So wait a second. Your kids are 10. Your husband stays and works, and you take a year and you take a backpack and you go all over the world.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
For world school, I world schooled them, I guess you would say.
Wow.
And tried to learn as much as we could from the world.
So
there's a lot to learn.
Did you go to India? Did you go to third world countries?
We spent 1 quarter in Europe, 1 quarter in Asia, 1 quarter in Latin America, and 1 quarter in the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
tried not to move too fast.
Yeah.
Although we did end up moving a little too fast in some places, but whatever.
Yeah.
So.
This for me, the trips, like I got early on. I mean, I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. It's sort of you probably are too, actually. But the adventure, wanting to do everything and all of that. But early on, I did. Before I was even, in my teens, we bicycled across the United States. I was just into these journeys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And around the world playing. I've done 2 big trips. Like one wasn't a full year, but the other one was. And what I learned on that, I completely changed my art. Like I figured my art out. I left so frustrated because I didn't like what I was making, and I was trying to have a career and all the things. And then I figured it out by going out in the world. And this thing that I coach and the way I make my art, it's this find your way as you go. It's how I talk about it a lot. And
gosh, I feel like I'm doing that now. I know you talk about that.
Yeah, but I mean, that is
definitely
that is from traveling. It's from journeying. It's from wayfinding.
Yeah.
Because you cannot plan this shit. You can't. 3 days ago, I didn't think I'd be talking to somebody about what we're talking about.
Yeah,
because
I didn't
the universe, you just got to get some clarity around what lights you up.
Yeah.
And then the how comes, but you can't believe how it comes. You can't believe how the how is.
Yeah.
But isn't that funny? And that's actually, this podcast is shifting and changing now, but 2 years ago or whenever I started, I was literally like, this is about finding your way as you go. That's what this podcast is about. And people who are doing that. Isn't that wild?
Wow, that's wild.
That's what I'm interested in.
That's it's so good that I just ran into you, because that's exactly what I need right now. It's just
Yeah.
But like I mentioned, my word this year is action. And so I have to do all those things that are probably terrifying. And just keep doing and make it like, I am doing these mono prints. I've been a photographer and now I'm like doing these, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just making it up and having fun and trying not to think, because I got to turn my brain off for a while. So I make them, and then I sit with them and reflect.
Yes.
And okay, what do I see in this? What does it bring in? Like, what do I feel inside? A lot of them, similar with another photo project I have, looking at what's inside, and acknowledging that, and then doing something fast. So like I was in that time, they were sailing for 30 days. I was in Paris with my camera, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is like a dream come true.
Right.
But I couldn't just wander around randomly. So I said to myself, okay, I'm gonna walk around and I'm gonna photograph I'm gonna turn my eyes inside, and what on earth is in my head? I'm gonna photograph whatever that is. And so I went around that day, and oh my gosh, it was so negative. I was like, I hadn't really listened to it.
It was negative?
It was negative.
Like negative,
and I was
like
a little
how
taken
negative?
aback, because I'm like, I did think I thought that, negative things, about myself and about different, it was just not good. So anyway, I said I was going to do it. So I proceeded to just photograph what I felt, right, inside. And then I got back.
So you were surprised you had negative thoughts. So what were you taking pictures of? Like,
that didn't quite work. Oh, so I was taking pictures of kind of bleak, dreary things, broken glass. They were very abstract, actually. Everything was super abstract. I got back and realized.
I'll use that piece of paper.
Okay, good.
Is that your throw away?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I looked at that. I was like, oh dear. And so I realized that night that, okay, for all of these negatives, every negative does have a flip side. It has a positive in a way, if you look for it. So because I am normally have tended to be very quiet, say in meetings and, big.
Before you started making art on podcasts and stuff, you were like a shy person, introvert on a sailboat.
No, actually, from the time I was small, really shy. But it's been a life project to get over that, because that's just not worth it. And people would be surprised. They'd be surprised when they found that out, when you know me, because I'm not that shy now. But
it's like, oh yeah, she's shy.
Right. So I realized that, each of those negatives I was thinking that day has a flip side. Like, that I'm so quiet and kind of not that big personality in the room or whatever, these things that were going through my head. I'm a good listener. I'm actually a good listener, and I think.
Because you're not talking all the time.
Because I'm not talking all the time, yeah. And I've been able to understand and hear people in that same group that I was criticizing myself for not speaking up in.
Yeah, beating yourself up.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And I've been pretty good at actually hearing the things that maybe weren't said, and going later to talk to people, like, what was going on? What do you think? I want your opinion. And then bringing people's thoughts and opinions in to come up with something that didn't maybe exist before.
Yeah, that's broader, that's bigger, more involving others in it.
And then I did what every photographer is not supposed to do and is completely poo-pooed. I made double exposures out of these, the negative and the positive. I just said, that's another one where I just had to say, oh, well, whatever.
You're not supposed to do that.
No, it's so it's so looked down on. And I've always loved them, like honestly loved them.
So you
So I just
double
said, I
exposure,
don't
two
care.
pictures melted together somehow.
Yeah, and that is us. We're not all bad. We're not all good. It's like we're this unique thing that's
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's cool.
That's new from.
And I love the, okay, tend to be this way. Well, what does that make possible? For you, it's like you can come up with decisions and ideas that are more collective and more inclusive. And, every business, I read a lot of books around leadership and team, and I'm learning how to work with people better, because I've always just been by
fantastic.
myself. Yeah, but
Yeah.
almost all the books are like, don't friggin' talk so much. Like, do you know that thing, WAIT?
Yeah.
WAIT is an acronym. Why am I talking? Like, just wait. Ask her, why am I talking? Yeah. And most of the time, you're talking because you want to sound like you're got something to say. And it's really powerful if you just wait and think about it.
Yeah.
So I totally relate to that. But I had my mom was, she was a borderline personality disorder, BPD. I didn't know what that was when I was a kid, but I'm sure for folks listening, some of them know about it. But if you know of anyone or has this, it's really horrendous. It's a thing it's a perspective that somebody has. It's not really that changeable. And again, I'm not a therapist or psychologist or anything, but what I learned about it was that the way they hear things, like I might say, it's crazy, you're sure? It's a lot of butterflies there, and you would be like, and you would throw down your paint and walk out. And so any little criticism to them is like, their worth is like plummets, and they're literally run out of the room. So my mom had, and they're just completely high functioning, normal, loving. My mom loved me to death. English parent, cooked up a storm. I was like, it was great. But she had this thing. So if you said the wrong thing, literally, like, Mom, these cookies are a little too much baking soda, would she leave? She'd leave for like 2 days.
Oh dear.
And the whole family, so as a little kid, of course, I just want to friggin' be loved. I just want to survive.
Yeah.
So I'd pay really good attention.
Yeah.
I could read her, and I would just be like, overly indexing kind of reading. Like, this is not a healthy thing I'm describing. This is not a virtuous thing. But I did it to survive. But I got really good at like reading her, and I would, if I came in, I'd be out skateboarding, having the best time, and she had a hard day. She's like, how's your day? I would never say, oh my God, it was so great. I just spent, we had like 6 ice creams, and it was so good. I would say, oh, it was good, but Mom, I'm struggling, and I'd make something up. Some of my friends left me because I was indexing to her. So then we could have a conversation. And so that's not a good way to be. You're pleasing. You're like, over pleasing people.
Right.
You're a person pleaser, which is horrible. But the reason I'm sharing this in a long-winded way is that what makes it possible is I got really good at feeling where other people were. So when I started teaching workshops, I could feel the energy in the room without even looking at them. And I would know when someone was struggling, and I could just walk over there and go, hey, do you need some help? Yeah. I could feel the room.
Yeah.
And that was the positive. And it's still today, that's why I'm a teacher. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Now I used to be a teacher that did everything for everybody, and that was, I had to like recover and not give, not do everything for everybody, but because you can overdo it, of course, which is what I did in the beginning, because it's like how I felt safe. I would please somebody,
Right.
Anyway, but yeah, I love it. It's parts theory. We have all these different parts.
Yeah.
And it's not that just because one of them is, has a temper or whatever, doesn't mean that we're all that. We're many parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It sort of normalizes it.
Yeah.
But it really sounds like you've, God, that must have been you must be so close to your kids.
Yeah.
To have a mom take a year off of your life to be with them every day. Did you backpack and
Yeah.
do all the tracks in New
we
Zealand?
had it was 7 kilos, I think we were allowed to have in our little tiny personal item. And that's what we had.
Oh my God.
Because you can get on flights that, they don't necessarily connect with the same airline, and you run from one to the next one.
God, were you ever scared a little, like a mom with young kids, and you're in remote areas, or
There was one absolutely terrifying time when we were up at, I think, about 14,000 feet in the Atacama Desert in Chile. And I'd rented this little car, and it was a stick shift, and we were going up this windy little road with like a complete drop off on one side and nowhere to go on the other side. Enough space for our little car and no other cars. And we rounded a corner and started going up this hill with, the corner in back of us was a drop off, of course, and we were really high up at that. We were almost to the top. And the car died, as it had been known to do. It wasn't the best car.
Right. This is Chile in the Altiplano with trying to rent a car, yeah.
Oh, but we've had great experiences elsewhere, but that particular car, not so good. And I had to try and start it. And of course, each time you try and start a stick shift car, it kind of goes back a little.
Oh my
and a little farther, and it wouldn't start, and going back a little further and a little further. Like, what if I just simply can't get the car started? Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. There is absolutely no one. We are up here on this road.
Oh my God.
It's gotten late. That was stressful, but I actually got it to start before we went off the cliff behind us.
Oh my God.
I got up to the top, but I was not gonna turn off the car. And for some reason, I think the alarm was going off if we there was some situation where the alarm would start going off. So I'm like, kids, walk over there, see that thing, come back, and we are driving home.
We're gonna keep going.
So fried. I was
wow.
like, no.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh my God.
So we drove back to the little pension where we were staying. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. And you stayed in youth hostels, which were like, that was like $20 a night, right? It's so cheap.
It was cheap, like different situations. And we also visited so many friends around the world, and that was just such a gift to see. And again, it's the people that you see.
The side effect, I guess it's the side effect of these trips that I did, was this realization, the end of this year, going all over India, Asia, all South Pacific, and being with so many people. And I'm curious how you feel about this, that like the world is 99.9990% filled with the most friendliest, kindest people.
Absolutely.
Like it is the safest place in the universe, planet Earth. And I know that sounds crazy, but that is an amazing thing to learn. And I stopped locking doors, and I've been ripped off and all the things, but it's like when you get how generous people are and kind, man, it is like you're just proud to be a human being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And I didn't have that perspective before I left, I mean, I don't know what I had, but I was blown away with the kindness, and there's this relationship, the inverse relationship between the less somebody has, the more kind they are, the more generous they are. A little bit.
Yeah.
Right?
I can completely see that. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
You've been making art on the boat. You ended up, this turned into like more than a semester at sea, right? That was COVID. It was a couple of years ago. You just kept going.
Yeah.
You probably have eaten a lot of fish. Do you eat fish?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, my husband, he will sometimes. He's vegan, but it went. Anyway, he is vegan, but he will eat fish occasionally. If the kids catch a fish, how can you not eat some fish? But they do, and we catch fish on passage. So you want to catch the big ones, deep ocean kind of
because they're
livers
cleaner?
because
Yeah.
in some of the lagoons they have something called ciguatera, and so you can get pretty sick if you eat the fish. So when we've been on passage, they've gotten some pretty big fish.
Yeah.
And one of my sons actually rigged up one of those flying fish that landed on the deck. You can smell them at night. He took one of those and made a lure with that fish.
And caught a bigger
and then
fish.
threw it out and caught a fish that literally was this tall.
Oh my God. Do you remember what it was?
It was a wahoo, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's
like a $400 fish. I mean, that per pound, what we're paying here. Yeah. You know, I go to this restaurant here, it's called Fish actually, you know, and you get this little piece of salmon.
Actually.
Yeah, it's good, it's really good fish.
Yeah.
But it's expensive. And, but, you know, you catch an entire fish, it's like, God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So you kept going, and how long have you been on the boat?
Almost a couple years, I guess.
Wow, that is incredible. But what's next? Are you just sailing to, like, you know, Australia now, or where are you thinking of going next? Or?
Right now, the boat's in Revavé, which is in the Australs, which is really far. It's the southernmost island chain in French Polynesia. And as soon as my son and I get there to join my husband's other son, we're going to head to a place called Rapa, which is the southernmost island.
I mean, there's airplanes that fly to these little islands.
No. Oh, not to Rapa.
Yeah, you can't
but
get
to
there.
Revavé, that's why we're meeting them there. There actually is an airport. So, yeah.
So you're
and
gonna
then
meet
after
up
that,
again.
I think we're going to go to the Gambiers.
The what?
Gambiers, it's another island chain in French Polynesia.
Like probably most people listening, me included, don't know these island chains. Isn't it wild?
Yeah, I completely get it. Like,
you're going.
We didn't either before all this.
Yeah,
So,
but there's all these cool islands. And are they different from one another? I mean,
yes. So the Tuamotus, that's an island chain that's made up of atolls, which these like very slim outline of an island with a giant lagoon in the middle.
wow.
So they're about 6 feet tall above sea level, and then maybe 100 yards wide. And then they make a whole circle with a few inlets. Then you have to come in the pass.
And you come in those, so it's super calm.
Yeah, it's calm inside, except for when they're really big, the big ones can sometimes, you know, the weather can whip up the waves across.
And is there civilization of housing or people living on those little like?
Yeah, not all of them, but.
So it's kind of idyllic. I mean, it must be just incredibly beautiful.
It's really beautiful. So that's the Tuamotus. And then the Marquesas Islands, that's more like Moana. They look like big, lush, you know, islands
Treasure
coming
island,
up out of the, Yeah, so I guess we'll do that. We'll kind of do a circle around, depending on weather, because weather is everything. Maybe we don't get that far. Maybe we do. And we'll head through the Society Islands, so Tahiti and Huahine, and all the way over to Bora Bora.
Oh, wow.
And
Bora Bora is the furthest one out, right?
There's actually one more after that.
Wow.
Tiny one. We tried to go, but it's really difficult to get in the pass.
It's, when you say the pass, you mean?
Oh, it's that there's there's almost always, most often, I guess, a coral reef that surrounds the islands.
Oh, okay.
And so you have to actually go through a piece of the coral reef that's not, like an area where there's not reef. And those are usually pretty slim. It's like a narrow inlet where you can get in past the reef that surrounds the island.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And there's waves crashing on the reef. So it's kind of gnarly.
On both sides. And
Yeah.
there's so much water rushing in and out. Sometimes, depends on the island. I mean, for the atolls at least, there's water rushing in and out depending on the tide. So, you know, sometimes it's rushing out so fast you can't come in. You have to time it right, that kind of thing.
Wow.
So we'll do that. And ultimately, we've just very recently decided to sell the boat and move to Denmark to be with my husband's mother.
Wow.
Yeah, so.
And are you okay with that? Like you've
Yeah,
done
we're all
it?
okay. We love her so much, and we just really, really want to have the time with her. So
Yeah.
yeah.
When you said we love her so much, I thought you were talking about the boat.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We do.
No,
we
of course,
do. We
of
do
course.
love
Yeah,
her,
I'm
but
sure. It must be.
we love Famor. That means grandmother in
Yeah.
Danish.
Oh.
Much
So
more.
his family's Danish?
Yeah, he's from Denmark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it'll be good. It'll be good. I think one of the kids is going away to school. The other one will be going to school in Copenhagen.
Oh my God.
And I need to learn Danish better and figure out what the next thing for me is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really enjoy this.
Yeah.
The creativity.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like quite yet, but again, it just need to be in action.
Yeah, totally. Just get in motion.
Doing, it'll become clear. I think. Yeah. So.
Oh, that's so amazing. And then you sell the boat to somebody, right? Is there a demand out there for boats?
Right now, there's some, not as much as when we bought the boat. When we bought the boat, we literally had to contact these people. Like, we were looking for something slightly different, bigger, different, I don't know, was not to be found. And then this came up on a Facebook group, and 30 seconds later, we were like, hi, we'd like to buy your boat.
Oh my God.
And we talked with them. It was the most wonderful family from New Zealand who'd been sailing around the world on this boat for 5 years.
Wow.
And they were great. And they said yes. And
Oh my God.
like, can we have the toys? They had a lot of toys.
You mean like the
They had
paddleboards?
Yeah, paddleboards, kayak, kite surfers, surfboards, all the things.
So I'm curious, this adventure that you did, you've pulled it off, and it's amazing. Like, for people listening, and like, this is a not an uncommon, but maybe not a common dream that isn't realized. But like, what would you say for someone wanting to do this? Like, what's your piece of advice? Like, besides do it, but I mean, what got you? What would somebody do to like move the needle on this, making this happen?
Well, yes, you're right. I would definitely say do it. But apart from that, life's too short, man. I just had a scare in the fall where I thought I was going to live a few months to maybe a year.
You are kidding.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. Thankfully, it was just it didn't happen. I mean, it was a mistake.
It was a mistake. You mean the doctor said
was
it
like
was a this and it wasn't a that?
Yeah, they said, well, it's probably this. I think the doctor I was talking with, it wasn't her specialty.
Yeah.
And so there was, kind of some miscommunication, and I was, flying out of Bora Bora, like hoping to come back someday, basically.
Wow.
But it was nothing. It was fine.
Wow.
And after that, it's like, okay, that's where action came from. That's where, really being present in life and in what I'm doing, in what I enjoy, how I'm spending my time.
Yeah.
It's all become clearer. Like, even communication has suddenly become easier. Like, sometimes
say what you want.
Hard for, it was a little hard for me. And now it's just, it's a lot easier somehow.
It's interesting because I forget what you called it, the double exposure, the flip or whatever. The flip of this is life enhancing, life change. To taste the temporariness of something, of a life, your own life, gives you such solid affirmation to live, and pay attention. It's pay attention, but wow.
Pay attention and communicate better, connect more, connect more with people. That's part of what I'm trying to stir into this.
Yeah, I love that.
For me, it's a little bit less about the thing and more about interacting around art. I would love it. I want people, and I've actually asked a lot of people, what do you see in this? What do you see?
Yeah, right.
And that lets me communicate with them and see them better, like to see what they see. I'm not as interested in what I see. I mean, on a personal level, it kind of helps with my journaling and my writing about it and whatnot. But I really think if we can start some conversations, which was what a lot of my career was about, conversations, I think that would be beautiful and bring us together, closer, connect better. And that's the thing about the sailing, and the biggest thing has actually been connecting with the people and the places we go, and also the other sailors. It's an amazing community of people. All walks of life, all ages, all backgrounds, all countries. Not all countries, but a lot of very international. And everyone is very supportive of one another, and very quick to say hello and, do you want to get together?
You get that when you're
do you need some help?
Right, because you've left your home community, and we're all in this. And that was, there's a whole world of people doing this, whether on a boat or backpacking or motorcycle, whatever. And it's like, that's your community, it's the nomads, right? So cool. Wow, well, listen, thank you so much for saying yes and sharing this afternoon with me. It's just been really inspiring and connecting, and my wheels are turning on so many things. So thank you so much. And I know that people are gonna have a huge value out of this. And I think people are I'm really curious as to what you're like opening the door to a new chapter.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's next.
Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. And I love the fact that you connected to Art2Life community as well, which is cool.
Fabulous community. Yeah. Thank you so much for offering me the opportunity to do
this. Yeah.
It's very exciting.
It was perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, and before I go, I just want to remind you once again that we've announced our destination retreats. They're going to be in October. They're 8 days, 7 nights, and this year we're going to Morocco and Mexico. These are designed to cause a really powerful transformation, a shift in your thinking, and ultimately your creative expression. It's all about finding the truest version of you using art. You'll be with an amazing group of like-minded creatives. A lot of the spots are taken already, but we still have room, and these are so much fun. We will be having great connecting talks. The food's extraordinary. They're in beautiful places, both of these. And I'll be there, obviously. I'll be bringing my creative team of coaches and facilitators. And it's just about deepening your awareness and connection to your truest self, which enables stronger, more authentic art and life. You'll be making a ton of art. And so if you're interested, again, artlifedream.com, check it out. And thanks so much. Okay.